everyone. This is Shauna Benson from OCALI's Teaching Diverse Learners Center. And I'm here today again to share some new strategies, more strategies. And this time we're talking about integrating assistive technology into some maybe literacy activities. So Sarah's with me again, Sarah Miller, and she has invited me again to her classroom. And we're going to share a little bit about some new tools. It sounds like you got some new assistive technology for your classroom.
I'm excited because I haven't really had time to sit down and utilize this like I would like to with all the things it can do, and even just the little jelly bean button.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so today I thought we would do just a really quick tutorial. Sometimes we get new technology. This happens to be a PowerLink 4 from AbleNet, and it Sarah also, like she said, had gotten a jelly bean switch to pair with the AbleNet device and PowerLink, and so we thought we would show an example or two about actual electronic tools you would set up or use with the PowerLink in a classroom setting, and for very specific learners, and why we would use different settings on the PowerLink and what those are all about. So I am going to start out really basic by just taking the new tool that you have, the PowerLink, and I'm going to just go through the motions of like plugging it all in and putting all the pieces together. So when you take the PowerLink out of the box, you're going to have this main unit. You'll also have a cord, like a power cord. And I usually keep at least one side kind of tucked in unless I'm going to use two devices, which today we're just going to share about one device. You do have to plug your power cord into the back port of the PowerLink device to get your electric flowing to the device. And you'll see when it's plugged in, it gives you the light up feature to show that now it's connected to power. When it initially starts up, it's going to be in the direct link or direct switch access mode. And we'll talk about the buttons here in just a second. The other piece that I'm going to show how to click in or plug in is the jelly bean switch. And we don't have any icons or anything on the top right now, but certainly with your jelly bean switch, it does have a cover. It also has
different colors.
Yeah, the different colors that it came with. And so you can switch those out based on visual acuity, preferences, even the theme of what you're, teaching or working on too. But certainly I would, often choose to have some kind of icon that tells the student exactly what it is we're going to be operating with this tool or with this device. And you can see that each side of the PowerLink does have a port for the switch to plug into. So I just plug this jelly bean switch right into the side port. I am going to be using then this power cord for this side. Okay. So now we have to have kind of our technology mostly set up. There's one more thing we would have to plug in, and that's the most important thing, really. It's like, what are the kids going to be doing with it? Yeah. So in this case, we have two different scenarios that I want to kind of talk through. And you had pulled a couple of book, examples. So let's talk about each book example, and then we'll actually plug in some tools and show how they work a little bit. So the first example or collection of books you pulled was about wind, and you had, I think, mentioned you teach a lot about weather, and we were just kind of focusing in on different types of weather.
Like if we document the different types of weather, usually windy days are part of something we can document too. So we have a couple of books that kind of describe wind, and so the kids understand a little better. Kind of a nonfiction selection, more set up like almost an encyclopedia from a long time ago. And then wind, just kind of all the things you can do with wind, and it shows it's invisible for the most part, but they try to give an idea of what it can do. Just thinking of it, it would also be good with erosion and deposition. If you're getting into that, like wind can move those kind of particles and things. So you could even set up a demonstration with that kind of idea.
That's great, because it did show the sand actually moving in the one picture. And it also showed the ocean and the tide. So you could also talk about tide, tidal tables, the how it impacts time and those kinds of things. So lots of different adaptations or expansions for the use of these books. But we could also just use them for a shared reading experience, right? So what if during the time that we're reading, we happen to have a little fan, and again, safety is number one. So make sure that when you're selecting the tools that you're putting at the end of your PowerLink, that's safety first, and you're thinking about little fingers and little people who may want to touch those kinds of things. So, definitely that's part of the conversation. So this happens to be just an electric fan. What if some of our students are like, I'm thinking about vocabulary, like what is wind by definition? We saw in the book that it does show, you can see wind in some cases, but sometimes you can just only feel it. You might even be able to hear it. So like sensory experiences that aren't going to always come out of a book, but we want to simulate those so that students understand the term, they understand what it can do. And so let's simulate through adapting this particular fan. So again, you have your power adapter or your power plug at the end. I'm just plugging this into the power plug on the side, or the port on the side of the PowerLink. Oops, gotta get aim in the right way. All right, so now my fan is plugged in. So I'm going to give it a little bit of a test. Right now, the PowerLink is set on direct access, so it should, hypothetically, when I push this, it should directly go to the PowerLink and directly start the fan.
It's a little dirty, but
A little fluff. Look how little fluff in the fan. There's a demonstration.
The wind blowing the dust.
Okay. So let's talk about the features on the PowerLink itself, the settings, if you will. So you just saw a little bit of an example of direct access. So every time I'm touching and holding, the fan is running. So you have to have your hand on for direct access. And for some students, that's the mode that you would want them to use. Mm-hmm. Can you think of a scenario where you have a student who you would want to have like direct access? That would be the mode that you would want them to use specifically.
Probably a student that would have a tendency to just hit the button over and over again. Maybe, this kind of goes with one of the other settings, but only allow him to hold it down for so long, but it also prevents him from keep going back and forth and just pounding on it. Like he has to apply pressure for an extended amount of time for it to work.
Right.
And some things might have a delay, so he might have to hold it down even longer just to make it work. And if he wants that kind of reward from operating something that we're doing, then he would have to sustain it, I guess, for a little longer.
Yeah. And there are some things like tools in our everyday environment that you might need to actually press and hold something for it to operate. I think about, some blenders, food processor types of tools where you do have to actually hold the button for it to operate. But there are a couple of other modes on here that I also want to talk through. So one of the other modes, if you hit that center mode button in the middle, it goes down to latch. And what latch is, and I kind of wish I would put this on the tool, but latch, and if you need a little cheat sheet, mm-hmm. you could even write this on the side or put a little piece of tape there, but latch is on and off. So it's like if you're thinking about like turning a light switch on and off, it operates by turning the device on with your first hit, with the student's first hit, mm-hmm. and then it turns it off with the second hit. So let's say you're in the book, you're reading the book, and all of a sudden in the book, it says the wind started blowing. So the student could actually turn it on and let it run until the wind dies down in the book, and then you would turn it off, or they would be listening for the cue for the wind to die down. So that's an opportunity for the latch to be on. Then you possibly could go into their 2-timed mode for this. So let's say we have a student who has a lot of complexity just accessing that switch one time, and you want the access to sustain for a long enough time because they may not have that motor operation or planning or strength, whatever, to get back to that switch a second time. So we want to give a little bit of reward in there, either a number of seconds, which you can, right now it says 5 seconds. You can increase the seconds by choosing the plus, and of course decrease with choosing the minus. And so now when the switch is selected, it gives us that 5-second operation time. And then it does automatically turn off when it starts up again, or when the 5 seconds are up. Yes. So if you had a student who you wanted to re-engage the switch again and again, you might choose a second or even a minute base timer, which if you go to the mode, it gets over to this minute base timing. Now, for today, we're going to keep it super simple. There are a couple of other settings with 2-switch. So we're not going to totally do examples for those yet today. But I do want to share one more example. that Sarah, you also pulled out different device. So lots of different options here. We tried to brainstorm and talk through so many different, devices, from bubble machines to, blenders or food processors or whatever. But one of the other activities you talked about, or book sets you talked about in your classroom, you were talking about space exploration and the study of space and planets and things like that. So tell me a little bit about those books and how you think you could use the PowerLink there.
Well, with this tool, it's kind of an ambiance almost, but also it kind of sets up the classroom for them to be more engaged in the reading too. Most of these things about space vehicles and space in general are nonfiction, so sometimes it might be pretty dry and kind of hard to get them excited about reading it. But it kind of shows stars, it projects stars, it even play music, but there's galaxy type figures on the ceiling too you can use, but like just to kind of give them a feeling of being out in space with the satellites, looking, and if you're looking at different parts of space, the galaxies, like I said, it was really good it shows a nice swirl galaxy. But anything we read about space and space vehicles, like we talk about the solar system a lot, so just kind of giving them the feeling when we talk about being out in space, of being there themselves. You can shut off all the lights, and you can have a student or two to have them take turns pushing the button for it. So
it creates that space environment. So if you think about the setting of a certain location, it definitely helps kind of bring that to life.
Yeah, so even if you're reading a fiction book about someone in space or something, you can bring around that environment.
Right. That's awesome. This particular tool happens to be a tool with a USB adapter on the end. So don't forget, you do have option to put those into more of an electronic adapter that would plug into the PowerLink. So I just wanted to show you that adaptation here. And then again, you can pick your mode. This happens to be set on direct mode, which is, again, what we talked about. You have to hold and apply pressure for this to run. And it does take a minute for the device to kick in. There's another mode on the device that actually showed the night sky. Do you remember what that sliding was there? So then you have that simulation almost of that starry sky. So students can be listening to book and turn the galaxies or starry on or off with the latch. It can also be timed for students who need to hit the switch more times than one, but you want the switch hit to last for a little while, through seconds or even a minute, or that student who would tend to
over and over again.
Direct, just that for that switch training would be helpful here too. So many other ideas.
The idea of books on tape, so that it can be more of an independent station as well.
Yep.
So you, you plug in your tape player, and then if you only want them to listen to a certain amount of the book, you would use the timed. And they can do that independently then that way. Yeah, that book listening is great for time because it does, it starts to tell the story and then all of a sudden it stops. It's like leaving them on a cliffhanger, and it's like a motivator to hit that switch another time to hear more of the story, more of what's happening. I will just put a plug in for the OCALI Lending Library. We do have a PowerLink tape player, and you can actually check out books on tape, multiple books on tape. If you want to try out the PowerLink, if you want to try out switch adaptation and the use of some electronic tools, we do have some of those available in the lending library. So hopefully people will check those out. Well, Sarah, it's been fabulous to talk through all these great ideas with you and, kind of set up the PowerLink, get it ready to roll for your school year. If people have questions, again, feel free to reach out. I'd be more than happy to include other types of technology into some of our short video clips and tutorials. Feel free to reach out at shauna_benson@ocali.org. Thanks, everybody, for being with us today. Thanks, Sarah, for inviting me back to your classroom. Thank you.
If other folks would be interested in hosting in your classroom, feel free to reach out again. I'd be super thrilled to visit other classrooms around our state. So, all right, everybody have a great day, and we'll be back soon. Thanks.